Chapter 4 of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. When we left off, Scout was um, very upset that she was having to not be able to read at home, but she and Atticus made a deal that if she would just go back to school regularly, that they would read like they had been, and there was a slight outbreak of cooties, lice, I assume, and we meet the Yules, first Yule, and they will surface a few times in the book. All right, Chapter 4. The remainder of my school days were no more auspicious than the first. Indeed, they were an endless project that slowly evolved into a unit, in which miles of construction paper and wax crayon were expended by the state of Alabama in its well-meaning but fruitless efforts to teach me group dynamics. What Jem called the Dewey Decimal System was school-wide by the end of my first year, so I had no chance to compare it with other teaching technique. I could only look around me. Atticus and my uncle, who went to school at home, know everything, at least. What one did not know, the other did. Furthermore, I couldn't help noticing that my father had served for years in the state legislature, elected each time without opposition, innocent of the adjustments my teachers thought essential to the development of good citizenship. Jem, educated on a half a decimal, half a dunce cap basis, seemed to function effectively alone or in a group. But Jem was a poor example. No tutorial system devised by man could have stopped him from getting at books. As for me, I knew nothing except what I gathered from Time magazine and reading everything I could lay my hands on at home, but as I inched sluggishly along the treadmill of the Macomb County school system, I could not help receiving the impression that I was being cheated out of something. Out of what I knew not, yet I did not believe that 12 years of unrelieved boredom was exactly what the state had in mind for me. As the year passed, released from school 30 minutes before Jem, who had to stay until 3 o'clock, I ran by the Radley place as fast as I could, not stopping until I reached the safety of my front porch. One afternoon as I raced by, something caught my eye, and caught it in such a way that I took a deep breath, a long look around, and then I went back. 2 live oaks stood at the edge of the Radley lot. Their roots reached out into the side road and made it bumpy. Something about one of the trees attracted my attention. Some tinfoil was sticking in a knothole just above my eye level, winking at me in the afternoon sun. I stood on tiptoe hastily, looking around once more, reached into the hole, and withdrew 2 pieces of chewing gum, minus their out wrappers. My first impulse was to get it into my mouth as quickly as possible, but I remembered where I was. I ran home, and on our front porch I examined my loot. The gum looked fresh. I sniffed it, and it smelled all right. I licked it and waited for a while, and when I did not die, I crammed it into my mouth. Wrigley's Devil Mint. When Jem came home, he asked me where I got such a wad. I told him I'd found it. "Don't eat things you find, Scout." "Well, this one on the ground is in a tree." Jem growled at me. "Well, it was," I said. "It was sticking in that tree yonder, the one coming from school." "Spit it out right now." I spat it out. The tang was fading anyway. "I've been chewing it all afternoon, and I ain't dead yet, not even sick." Jem stamped his foot. "Don't you know you're not supposed to even touch a tree over there? You'll get killed if you do." "Well, you touched the house once." "Well, that was different. Now you go gargle right now, you hear me?" Ain't neither. It'll take all the taste out of my mouth." "You don't, and I'll tell Calpurnia on you." Rather than risk a tangle with Calpurnia, I did as Jem told me. For some reason, my first year of school had wrought a great change in our relationship. Calpurnia's tyranny, unfairness, and meddling in my business had faded to gentle grumblings of general disapproval. On my part, I went to much trouble, sometimes not to provoke her. Summer was on the way. Jem and I waited it with impatience. Summer was our very best season. It was sleeping on the back screen porch in cots, or trying to sleep in the treehouse. Summer was everything good to eat, It was 1,000 colors in a parched landscape, but most of all, summer was dill. The authorities released us released us early the last day of school. Jim and I walked home together. "Reckon old Dill'll be coming home tomorrow," I said. "Probably day after," said Jim. "Mississippi turns him loose a day later." As we came to the live oaks at the Radley place, I raised my finger to point for the 100th time to the knothole where I'd found that chewing gum, trying to make Jim believe I found it there, and found myself pointing at another piece of tinfoil. "I see it, Scout, I see it!" Jim looked around, reached up, and gingerly pocketed a tiny, shiny package. We ran home, and on the front porch we looked at a small box, patchworked with bits of tinfoil, collected from chewing gum wrapper. It was the kind of box wedding rings came in, purple velvet with a minute catch. Jim flicked open the tiny catch. Inside were 2 scrubbed and polished pennies, one on top of the other. Jim examined them. "Indian heads," he said. 1906, and Scout, one of them 1900. These are really old. 1900, I echoed. "Say, hush a minute, I'm thinking." "Jim, you reckon that's somebody's hiding place?" "Nah, don't anybody much but us pass by there, unless it's some grown person's. Grown folks don't have hiding places. You reckon we ought to keep 'em, Jim?" "I don't know what we could do, Scout. Who'd we give 'em back to? I know for a fact don't anybody go by there. Cecil goes by the back street and all the way around by town to get home." Cecil Jacobs, who lived at the far end of our street next door to the post office, walked a total of 1 mile per school day to avoid the Radley place, and old Miss Henry Lafayette Dubose. Miss Dubose just lived 2 doors up the street from us. Neighborhood opinion was unanimous that Miss Dubose was the meanest old woman who had ever lived. Jim wouldn't go by her place without Atticus beside him. "What you reckon we ought to do, Jim?" "Finders was keepers unless title was proven. Plucking an occasional camellia, getting a squirt of hot milk from Miss Maudie Atkinson's cow on a summer day. Helping ourselves to someone's skippernogs was part of our ethical culture, but money is quite different." "Tell you what," said Jim, "we'll keep 'em till school starts, and then we'll go around and ask everybody if they're theirs. And there's some bus child's maybe. He was too taken up with getting out of school today and forgot 'em. These are somebody's, I know that. See how they've been slicked up? They've been saved." "Yeah, but why should somebody want to put away chewing gum like that? You know it doesn't last." "I don't know, Scout, but these are important to somebody." "How's that, Jim?" "Well, they're Indian heads. Well, they come from the Indians. They're real strong magic. They make you have good luck. Not like fried chicken when you're not looking for it, but things like long life and good health and passing 6-week tests. These are real valuable to somebody. I'm going to put 'em in my trunk." Before Jim went to his room, he looked for a long time at the Radley place. He seemed to be thinking again. 2 days later, Dill arrived in a blaze of glory. He had ridden the train by himself from Meridian to Macomb Junction, a courtesy title. Macomb Junction was in Abbott County, where he had been met by Miss Rachel in Macomb's one taxi. He had eaten dinner in the diner. He had seen 2 twins hitched together get off the train in Bay St. Louis, and stuck to his story regardless of threats. He had discarded the abominable blue shorts that were buttoned to his shirt and wore real short pants with a belt. He was somewhat heavier, but no taller, and said that he had seen his father. Dill's father was taller than ours. He had a black beard, and it was pointed, and was president of the L&N Railroad. "I helped the engineer for a while," said Dill, yawning. "In a pig's ear you did, Dill." "You better hush," said Jim. "What'll we play today?" "Tom and Sam and Dick," said Dill. "Let's go in the front yard." Dill wanted the Rover boys because there were 3 respectable parts. He was clearly tired of being our character man. "I'm tired of those," I said. I was tired of playing Tom Rover, who suddenly lost his memory in the middle of a picture show and was out of the script until the end, when he was found in Alaska. "Make us up one, Jim," I said. "I'm tired of making them up." Our first days of freedom, and we were tired. I wondered what the summer was going to bring. We had strolled to the front yard where Dill sat looking down the street at the dreary face of the Radley place. "I smell death," he said. "I do. I mean it," he said, when I told him to shut up. "You mean when somebody's dying you can smell it?" "No, I mean I can smell somebody and tell if they're going to die. An old lady taught me how." Dill leaned over and sniffed me. "Jean Louise Finch, you are going to die in 3 days. There's my phone call. Be right back."